Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. Thank you for joining us today as we present today's Tech Talk on Service to Cash Business Process Overview and its alignment to the end-to-end process guide. My name is Jason du Plessis, and I'll be moderating this session. To present today's session, I'm being joined by my colleagues, Dean Hardy, Nuno Cruz, and Sabrina Di Bartolomeo, who are all fast-track solution architects. With that, let's dive in. For today's agenda, we'll cover an overview of Service to Cash, what it includes, and common stakeholders and benefits. Then we'll discuss the end-to-end business processes within Service to Cash and demo some user stories. We'll finish by sharing some additional resources and take some time for Q&A. Now I'll hand over to Dean to provide an overview of the Service to Cash process.
Thank you, Jason. The term Service to Cash is a common business process which describes the entire process of preparing for and delivering services to customers, including invoicing and payment collection activities. Let's review what the Service to Cash business process is. Service to Cash is a term used to describe the end-to-end business process of providing service and collecting for it. It's a critical process because it directly impacts customer experiences and overall business operations. The Service to Cash process within an organization involves several interconnected steps. Let's break those down. Service request handling. This is when a customer requests a service, such as technical support, maintenance, or repairs. The organization logs the request. This step includes capturing relevant details about the service needed. Resource allocation. The organization assigns the appropriate resources, technicians, experts, or service personnel to fulfill the service requests. This involves scheduling and coordinating their availability. Service delivery. The assigned resources perform the requested service. This could be anything from fixing a broken appliance to providing software support. Time and expense tracking. During service delivery, the organization tracks the time spent by the resources and any associated expenses, such as travel costs or materials used. Service agreements and invoicing. If there's a pre-existing service agreement with the customer, such as a maintenance contract, the organization generates an invoice based on the agreed terms. Otherwise, they create an invoice for the specific service rendered. Payment collection. The organization sends the invoice to the customer and collects payment. This step completes the cash part of the process. Analytics and insights. Organizations analyze service performance, profitability, and customer satisfaction to make informed decisions and improve their processes. Remember that while variation of this process may differ based on the industry, organization, and specific workflows, they are fundamental steps that apply universally to the Service to Cash process. Now let's spend a moment discussing different types of service and how they affect the Service to Cash implementation priorities. There are two important dimensions to types of service, which in combination have a big impact on the individual process flows and scenarios relevant to the organization providing the service. The first dimension is depot versus field. That's whether the service is being performed at a fixed location and the frontline workers also work at that location, and we call that depot service. Or the service is provided at remote locations, which are different than where the frontline workers begin and end their day, and we'll call that field service. The second important dimension is whether service is being provided on company-owned or internal assets, or assets that are owned by an external organization, and we'll call those customer assets. Let's explore some examples and scenarios to highlight how these service types affect processes within the Service to Cash. Depot service involves centralized repair and maintenance of equipment or assets at a fixed location, usually a depot, workshop, or facility. The key aspects of this type of service are that the assets and resources are centrally located, reducing the need to calculate travel times and optimize routes to achieve efficiencies. When an organization services its own assets, equipment, machinery, etc., it maintains and repairs items that belong to the organization itself. The organization has full control over the maintenance schedule, quality standards, and resource allocation. With field service, that involves providing on-site support for assets or equipment at a location. Technicians typically travel to service sites to install, repair, or maintain assets. Examples include HVAC repair, appliance installation, and industrial equipment maintenance. Key aspects of this service type include assets being serviced where they are installed and technicians working remotely and independently. In these scenarios, it can be more challenging to manage technician schedules, optimize their routes, and ensure timely service. In summary, depot service focuses on centralized repair, while field service involves on-site support. Whether an organization services its own assets or customer-owned assets depends on their business model and customer relationships. Both approaches have unique challenges and require efficient processes to ensure successful service delivery. Having a keen understanding of the differences between types of service will help organizations model and adopt the service-to-cash end-to-end business process more effectively. Now let's take a look at some of the benefits that can be obtained by implementing the service-to-cash process. There are several benefits in using a technology solution to assist with the service-to-cash process. Use these key benefits to determine whether the solution is a good fit for your business and drive specific business requirements for implementing the solution. As a side effect, the benefits can also serve as a baseline for your goals and objectives for the project. Therefore, you can use them to measure the success of implementing solutions to meet those business requirements. With service-to-cash, organizations can automate their service request handling and manage their resources more effectively. The result is a faster and more reliable service delivery. Manage the entire service-to-cash process from the initial service request through final payment. This end-to-end process management can result in improved revenue and profitability. Eliminates manual processes, reduces errors, and streamlines workflows. Therefore, it helps lower the costs that are associated with servicing customers and collecting payments. Enables real-time visibility into the service-to-cash process so that organizations can track and monitor the results of service requests, invoices, and payments. Enhance collaboration between different departments that are involved in the service-to-cash process, such as sales, service, and finance teams. The results are better communication and improved outcomes. By automating the service-to-cash process flow, businesses can streamline their operations and reduce manual errors. In return, the organization gains increased efficiency, reduced costs, and faster turnaround times. A 360-degree view of customers and smooth and efficient service-to-cash process flows ensures that customers receive their products and services in a timely manner and can easily pay for them. The likely result is improved customer satisfaction and loyalty. By automating the service-to-cash process flow, businesses can more quickly and easily generate accurate financial reports, improving financial reporting. The organization can then make better financial decisions and more effectively comply with regulatory requirements. Overall, the service-to-cash process flow is a critical aspect of any business and can help improve financial performance, customer satisfaction, and overall efficiency. Now let's review common stakeholders involved in implementing the service-to-cash process. Implementing a technology solution such as Dynamics 365 to support the service-to-cash end-to-end process involves a range of stakeholders from various departments and levels of the organization. Here are some of the typical stakeholders involved. Customer service stakeholders, such as customer service agents and managers. Service stakeholders, like service coordinators, service managers, dispatchers, frontline workers, and supervisors. Planning stakeholders, examples include Chief Operations Officer, VP of Operations, Operations Manager, and Planning Managers. Supply chain stakeholders, such as purchasing, receiving, and warehouse personnel and managers. Finance stakeholders, like Chief Financial Officer, Controller, Finance Director, Accounts Receivable, and Credit and Collections. And human resource stakeholders, examples like Chief People Officer, Director of Human Resources Manager, and Recruiter. Successful implementation of Dynamics 365 to support the service-to-cash processes requires collaboration and coordination between these and other stakeholder groups. Before we start drilling into service-to-cash processes and user story demos, let's just take a moment to review the process-driven architecture that all of our end-to-end processes are structured around. This architecture is important for you to understand when you read the process guidance articles in Microsoft Learn site, or use the downloadable process catalog to quickly set up your ADO repository with all of the work items needed to get started designing and implementing processes for your project. In the left-hand column, you see that our architecture framework is divided into 4 levels. Level 1 is the end-to-end process itself. For example, here, service to cash, end-to-end process that we are reviewing today. In ADO, level 1 will be represented as collections and include test suites, work items, dimensions, and tags. Level 2 includes the process areas within the specific end-to-end process. Process areas are logical groupings of individual business process flows. Examples of process areas and service to cash are manage service assets and create and process service work. Process areas will be represented in the ADO process catalog as epics. During an implementation, these are the items you'll use to represent workshops. Level 3 of the framework is the level where individual business process flows are specified. Our examples include set up customer assets and schedule service work. Level 3 will be the features in the ADO catalog. Level 4 represents the scenarios or user stories. Example user stories from service to cash include build asset hierarchies, replace customer asset, and schedule crews. The ADO process catalog for level 4 will include links to configuration work items, test cases, and documentation deliverables. Additional information about solution and architecture process guidance in the process catalog will be listed in the resources near the end of this presentation. Now let's talk about service-to-cash process areas. The service-to-cash process is the process of preparing for and delivering services and collecting payments for them. To organize implementation activities and provide a logical grouping for individual business process flows, we categorize service-to-cash into the following 6 process areas. Manage service assets. This process area includes processes for creating, maintaining, and monitoring of serviceable asset records within the technology solution. Manage service resources. This process area covers planning and recruiting your service workforce, managing service capacity and availability, and maintaining resource records in the system. Create and process service work. This process area covers the definition of service policies, management of service requests, scheduling and dispatch, service delivery, and completion of service orders. The 3 process areas I just mentioned are unique to the service-to-cash process. The next 3 are overlapped with the order-to-cash end-to-end process. Invoice customers. This process area covers creating and spending and sending an invoice to a customer based on a service order and posting it to the general ledger. Invoicing is a common part of the service-to-cash process for many organizations. Record customer payments. This process area includes the various processes for collecting payment for the products and services used in service delivery. Monitor customer credit and collections. This process area involves managing credit limits, monitoring customer balances, and collecting payments for accounts that are past due. While service to cash is the business process that encompasses the steps for service delivery, it also ties into most of the other standard end-to-end business processes shown here. And in general, when we are looking at business solutions for service, we should think and talk about how someone might use each and all of these processes in combination. Service to cash is by no means a process that operates on its own within an organization. Now let's dive into more detail on the service to cash process. We'll begin with the managed service assets process area. As you recall, managed service assets is one of the 6 process areas within service to cash. That's level 2 in the solution architecture framework and will correlate with epics and workshops in an implementation project. Common business process flows, level 3 in the framework, within the managed service assets process area include the following: maintain and repair internal service assets, manage and report on asset financials, and set up, update, and monitor customer assets. Now let's review a user story within this process area. Let's investigate the use case, creating customer assets manually. Contoso Utilities provides home electrical servicing to many customers across the country. Ashley Chin, a service administrator, wants to add a new asset to a service customer's account to represent the serviceable equipment at the service location, so technicians can record their service activities against it. Here's a demo of how to perform this user story in Dynamics 365 Field Service. Ashley Chin needs to add a new customer asset to Abraham McCormick's account. Opening Abraham's account, she navigates to Customer-Related Assets tab. Then she clicks the New Customer Asset button. Ashley adds a washing machine asset to Abraham's account so it can be serviced in the future and collect service history records over time. Once added, Ashley could add additional information such as make, model, serial number, and warranty coverage. Now Ashley can view the new asset in the Locations and Assets tab of Abraham's account. Now let's investigate the next step, where the service administrator will create a new resource. We will look at the Managed Service Assets process area, Managed Service Resource process area. Some of the most common business process flows included in the Managed Service Resources process area are planning and recruiting your service workforce, managing the employee lifecycle, managing time and attendance, maintaining service resource records within the technology solution, managing resource capacity, and tracking resource costs. Let's look at a sample user story within the setup and maintain service resources process flow. Here we'll look at a user story, create and service a resource. Contoso Utilities provides home electrical servicing to many customers across the country. Ashley Chin, a service administrator at Contoso Utilities, wants to set up a bookable resource record for a new service technician, Bob Kozak, that will be joining the company soon. Let's look at the demo of how you can perform this user story in Dynamics 365 Field Service. Navigating to the Resources area of Dynamics 365 Field Service, Ashley clicks on the New Resource button in the command bar. Since Bob has already been enabled in Microsoft Entra, she searches for and selects Bob's name from the directory. Next, she selects the time zone that Bob will be working in. On the Scheduling tab, she sets Bob's start and end location to represent that he will be beginning and ending his day at the Redmond branch office. She checks to ensure that Bob is enabled for display and searches on the schedule board. After saving the resource record, she will indicate that Bob is a certified appliance repair tech by adding that skill to his resource profile. Next, she adds Bob to the Washington service territory. And the last step is to set Bob's working hours to 8 to 5 Pacific time. Now Bob Kozak has a resource profile in field service and will be ready to be scheduled for new bookings when he begins next week. Now let's move on to the create and process service work area.
Thank you, Dean. Let's look at some of the most common business process flows included in the create and process service work area. Defining service policies. This involves establishing guidelines for efficient resource management, timely service delivery, and customer satisfaction. It ensures smooth operations and effective field service management. Creating the service request is a critical aspect within field service operations. It involves handling end-user requests efficiently and ensuring timely creation of a request for work to be executing. Scheduling the service work involves planning and organizing tasks systematically to ensure efficient and timely completion. The frontline worker executes the specific tasks, communicates with stakeholders, and updates processes, progress, and status. Finally, reviewing and closing the service requests is where a frontline worker completes the service tasks, the bookings are closed, and the supervisor reviews the work order. Let's walk through some examples of user stories in these areas. Starting with creating a service request, where an agent is converting a case into a work order within Dynamics field service. Service requests can be created in various ways, including direct creation or through an API. Case creation is part of Dynamics 365 customer service, and then converting this to a work order is a common process, allowing the case to be scheduled and executed as part of Dynamics 365 field service. Let's see a demo of this in Dynamics 365 field service. The customer calls into Contoso Utilities service help desk with a problem. Their Acme washing machine they've had for less than 6 months will no longer turn on. Service agent has created a case and suggested various steps such as validating there's power and turning the appliance off and then on again. After determining that the problem with the washing machine cannot be diagnosed remotely, they decide that on-site technicians to visit the customer is the best next step, and a work order needs to be created. They do this by clicking the Convert to Work Order button, and then clicking OK to open the newly created work order. The work order is now ready to be scheduled. Let me hand over to Nuno to talk about how that scheduling process works from here.
Thank you, Jason. Next user story is about scheduling with Cruz resources. In this next user story, we will explore how to use Cruz as a special kind of resource that enables us to schedule multiple resources at once. This will help us to achieve our goals more efficiently and effectively. Let's consider a new service work demanding careful planning due to the heavy equipment and complex process involved. It is necessary to coordinate a team of 2 qualified members who can collectively complete the service in one visit. In this next demo, I am now acting as a dispatcher that will use the resource type crew to schedule multiple bookable resources at once. I am now using Field Service app. Going to resources, we can find some crew resources. Selecting one, we will be able to see which members belongs to this crew and the period of time that this member is active on the same crew. Now, back into service, I will use Schedule Board to book a requirement to a crew. So, I will select a requirement and I will drag and drop and deploy on a crew. At this time, every member of this crew will also have a booking created for themselves. Any operation at the crew level booking, it will replicate to the booking of the members. So in this case, deleting the booking from the crew It will also delete the bookings from the members. Let's now repeat the same process, but now using Schedule Assistant. So again, selecting a requirement, click on Find Availability. Let's now choose a crew. Click on Book and Exit. And again, it will be possible to see each member with their own booking. Again, moving the date from the crew, it will also reflect the change on the members. I hope this video was helpful to better understand the process to schedule service work with crews. Handing over to you, Jason.
Let's move on to a user story relating to actually performing the service work. The actual execution of the service work by a field service engineer or engineers includes multiple steps and possible activities. Let's look into it, just a single user story where the field service engineer runs a diagnostic on the appliance, captures results using field service mobile on their device. The engineer arrives at the customer's home and begins to do an inspection of the washing machine. They open up the booking record on their mobile device, which they've already set to in progress on arrival, and navigate to the Service tab. They select the task to inspect the washing machine, and they note that the device is showing now that there aren't any dangerous spillages or defects, and that they did a full diagnostic on the device. Finally, they found that the issues related to a faulty switch, which they repaired. They mark the task as complete. I'll pass on to Sabrina to talk about the last stage in this process.
Now, let's look into the next step, where Service Manager reviews the work order. This might involve reviewing service tasks and customer feedback, adding any important documents, analyzing performance, and updating the status to close and bill the work done. The review usually starts once the service tasks are all done, bookings are closed, and the system status of the work order is completed. The service managers look over the work the team did. For example, by checking the summary, the manager can see that a technician used a product, that one service was completed, that the job was done quicker than expected, and the total cost of the work order. The manager has the ability to view detailed information about the technician's work by navigating through various tabs. This feature allows for a comprehensive overview of tasks completed by the technical team. Within the task section, the manager has the ability to verify the completion of the inspection and review the technician's notes. Under the Product and Service tab, the manager can see what product was used for the job. The manager might update the work order during the review. For instance, if the customer needs to pay for a part, the manager could choose to give a full discount on the service. In the example, we see how the manager chooses the service and applies a full discount to it. This change shows up in the final price of the work order. Which you can see now in the summary section. Once the manager finishes checking the work, he can then proceed to billing. By clicking on Post, the work order status will be then updated to the status posted. Back to you, Dean.
Thank you, Sabrina. Now let's talk about the invoice customers process area. Some of the most common business processes process flows included in the invoice customers area are create project invoices, create free text credit notes, create project credit notes, post invoices and recognize revenue, send invoices to customers, create service work invoices, and create service work credit notes. Let's look at a user story where the create project invoices process flow. In this user story, Alicia Thornburg, a controller for Contoso Utilities, wants to create an invoice in Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations from product and service line items that were generated when a work order was completed and posted by the field service manager. Let's see how she can do this in Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations. In this scenario, a work order in Dynamics 365 Field Service was completed, and using the integration to Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations, the products and service labor consumed during the service delivery are available to generate a customer invoice. Let's have a look. You see that the work order is in a posted status, and that through the work order service account, it is associated to a customer project. Now moving over to Finance and Operations, we see that the posted work order has a created subproject number 16. And since we have consumed the HDMI cable, the item journal has been created. In the next step, we create the invoice proposal. Then we post the invoice proposal. Now we can see that the invoice is created against the project and the customer. Let's talk about recording customer payments process area. Examples of common business process flows include record customer payment. Included in the record customer payments area are configure and apply cash discounts, manage incoming cash, manage customer payments for service work, process customer refunds, make bank deposits, and settle bank transactions. This next user story would be part of the manage customer payments for service work business process flow within the record payments process area. In this user story, Brooke Drynan, accounts receivable clerk, has received a payment from the customer and needs to record it in the finance system. Once the invoice has been posted, we expect the customer to pay, and for that we go to accounts receivable, customer payments journal. Customers can make payments in different formats. For this example, we'll record a direct payment. We create the customer payment journal header. Then we create the payment proposal for our customer. Then we'll enter the date and assign it to the bank account. Then we'll post the payment, showing that there is no outstanding amount on this invoice. Now let's talk about monitor customer credit and collections process area. Examples of common business process flows included in the monitor customer credit and collections area are set customer credit limits, update customer credit limits, manage orders with credit holds, block or close customer accounts, create and process collection letters, process customer account statements, process and write off bad debts. The next user story would be part of the create process collection letters business process flow within the monitor customer credit and collections process area. April, who is a credit and collections clerk, needs to send a collection letter to a customer with overdue invoices. This use case shows how collection letters can be generated and sent from Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations. Now let's show how to create a collections letter. In Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations, we open the Create Collections Letter menu. We select the letter we want to send, customer, and the date. And we select OK. We receive the message that the letter was created. The collection letter is now available in the list. We can open the letter, review the associated invoices. And then post the collection letter. And we send it to the customer via email, fax, or postal using the print management settings. Now to wrap up, I'll hand it back to Jason.
We've included some links to some resources that will assist you to learn more about what we've discussed today. The Tech Talk links will introduce you to the business process catalog and guidance content and how you can use that to plan and map requirements for Dynamics implementation projects. It also includes some links to product documentation, training modules, and Viva-engaged community groups for the products we've shown today. This deck will also be made available for you to download once this Tech Talk has been published in the coming weeks. But this concludes our session. Thank you again, and enjoy the rest of your day.